A defiant and unrepentant Shiv Sena MP today dared the police to arrest him. This after Ravindra Gaikwad decided that not being able to fly business class merited a lengthy assault on an airline employee. The former school teacher says the airline Air India must be investigated for ill-treating him, even though it was he who used his sandals to hit a 60-year-old Air India manager 25 times. He even announced it to journalists very proudly last night. The Shiv Sena has not announced any action against him despite a large shot of his abuse being filmed. Air India has filed 2 police cases against him, and supporting Air India are 5 other airlines at least who have banned the goon MP. And that's what we're discussing on the program. Joining me a special panel, Ajay Singh, Chairman and Managing Director, SpiceJet, also Shaina NC of the BJP, Rahul Narvekar of the NCP, Jitendra Bhargav, former Director, Air India, and Bharat Bolkar, MD Zen Communications, all of them coming up in just a bit. But first, earlier I caught up with Mr. Ajay Singh and began by asking him on standing up to authority. All these airlines coming together and standing up to authority, rather rare. What really made this the last straw?
You know, as airlines, we are all extremely concerned about the safety of our aircraft and the safety of our passengers. We operate in an incredibly fragile environment where very little incidents can imperil the safety of 200 odd passengers who fly on an aircraft. So it is for us to take all possible necessary steps, and there's nothing more important for us than safety. So we have to take steps to protect ourselves, which is what we are trying to do. We've seen this happen way too often, that customers behave poorly to an extent that you know, they imperil the safety of other passengers. And we think that we should act to put a stop to activities of this sort. And all airlines together have decided that they will deny passage to passengers who create trouble on aircraft. And this is something that is being done jointly. And it's about time that we said that people like this are not welcome on our airlines.
Absolutely. It's quite an important step, and perhaps an idea that whose time really has come now. You said that, you know, these kind of incidents happen quite often. How often really do airlines have to deal with such tantrums from so-called VIPs?
Happens more than you might want to see. And we really do think that this is, you know, as an Indian citizen, I believe that this really is an assault on decency and values that our country lives by. So we see this happen very often. Very often, this kind of behavior is directed to junior staff that is not really in a position to retaliate. So it's you know, as companies and as airlines and as government even, we need to take steps to ensure that this kind of behavior is not tolerated, and especially that behavior which can potentially imperil safety.
Absolutely. Absolutely. An assault on human decency, really very well put there. Do you believe the MP should be arrested? Many are asking, why hasn't that happened already?
Well, that's really for the police to see. It's, you know, I believe that the airline here, Air India, has filed a complaint, and it's for the law enforcement agencies to take what action they deem fit on that complaint.
Fair enough. Now, you've also said that you back the no-fly list. It's usually one that's reserved for offenders to ensure that they don't leave the country, that they're tried within the country itself. But increasingly, also, there's a demand for it to extend to unruly, so-called unruly passengers. In Parliament, though, we've heard the Civil Aviation Minister say just this month that there's no such move for that no-fly list, despite 50-odd such cases since July last year. What do you believe is holding that?
We've started this discussion with the government, and of course the government will need to look at what international practice is on this, and whether a no-fly list means that first you impose some form of fines, and how exactly is this to be implemented. Do you need to link PNR numbers to Aadhaar cards, because how do you otherwise identify passengers? A passenger can just come and fly by another name, and you won't know. So clearly this has to be thought through, and there has to be significant stakeholder consultations. But our view as airlines is very clear that there should be a no-fly list, and we have requested the government and the regulator DGCA to work with us to ensure that we can bring one in as soon as possible.
Right, you've spoken about very strongly, sir. Just one last question now. The Shiv Sena treating him in a sense really with kid gloves. It seems to be nothing more than a rap on the knuckles. Does it infuriate you to see that?
We are just simply concerned about our own safety and you know the morale of staff on board. Basically, you know, what we believe is that an attack on crew of any airline is an attack on crew of all airlines, and also an assault on the whole idea of basic decency. So we will stand up against it, and we will try and ensure that we protect ourselves and our airlines, our aircraft, and other passengers, the hundreds of other passengers who might be on a flight. We want to protect them in a calm, rational, and structured fashion.
Absolutely. There are, of course, all those passengers who are not subject to any special privileges or VIP treatment, who will be glad that all those airlines have come together and done this. Ajay Singh, Chairman and Managing Director, SpiceJet, thanks so much there for speaking to us. Well, let's get on with the program. Let me introduce the rest of our panel again. Shaina NC of the BJP, Rahul Narvekar of the NCP, Jitendra Bhargav, former Director, Air India, and Bharat Dabolkar of Communications and Admin. Thanks all for being with us. Mr. Dabolkar, sir, first to you. You wrote today in a Facebook post, the Shiv Sena MP hitting an airline staff is disgusting and unpardonable, and I'm sure people around the country agree. This is the musty of power that needs to be stopped. You can't raise your hand no matter what. But you go on to say, I know Uddhav Thackeray, he's a sober and responsible leader. He will do the needful. Now, many are asking this evening that the Shiv Sena has ordered an inquiry. Look at the images that we are seeing there. It's not really rocket science. There isn't much to investigate. Why isn't there action? Why isn't he been expelled from the party, sir? Many are asking.
No, I think this is a very, normal passengers misbehaving with getting drunk and misbehaving with air hostesses has been on the increase, and even that should be stopped. But politicians behaving like this, who are supposed to be role models for the next generation behaving like this, absolutely unacceptable. And I personally feel that Uddhav Thackeray is a reasonable man. He has been taking Shiv Sena forward in a better way than earlier. He's being more reasonable, he's being more balanced. And I'm just hoping that he takes the right stand in this and punishes this guy. You just can't say, we warned him and let him go, he won't do it again. That's not enough. I think there should be a more severe punishment.
Absolutely. So really a rap on the knuckles isn't enough.
The man that I've known does that.
A rap on the knuckles isn't enough. We really want to see more. But what do you believe would be appropriate action in this case? And the point that you're making, sir, about ordinary passengers also getting drunk, it's unacceptable behavior. But especially when it comes from a lawmaker, the spotlight is a lot more. Yeah. You are a public servant at the end of the day.
I think that as a first step, I'm not saying as a final step, he should be suspended by Shiv Sena. They should say, if you behave like this in public, it brings down the entire image of the party, and he should be suspended. And I don't know what action they would take later on, but I said immediately what they should do in order to be seen as a party that does the right thing. They should suspend him immediately. Right. That's what I feel.
Right. Of course, now the gaze is on them, the ball really in their court, and just how much time they're going to take to sort this out, to take that kind of action. The video are out there really leaving nothing much to be investigated or to the imagination. But let me go across to Jitendra Bhargav, sir. We just heard Ajay Singh of SpiceJet say that this kind of so-called VIPs demanding special treatment and then getting so very upset, resorting to violence when they don't get it, happens more often than we would like to believe it does. What do you believe is the way out? All these airlines getting together, a welcome first step, Mr. Bhargav?
You see, first I would like to make a distinction between the privileges that the MPs enjoy, some of them not deserving. The second is the incident that happened yesterday. They must be looked at in two different perspectives.
Okay.
Yesterday's thing was unfortunate, deplorable, should never have been allowed to take place. And that is where one looks at, and that is why it has got a very great public outrage. Media continuously showing it for the last 2 days. Airlines uniting together and getting this passenger, denying this man the right to travel on any of the Indian carriers, which has never happened. I would like to describe it, if yesterday was an unfortunate day in the history of Indian aviation because of what he did, today is a red letter day because all airlines have united together to ensure that such a thing does not take place. Right. It will have a salutary effect. People will think twice that, oh, if an MP can be treated in this manner and he can be denied, an ordinary man will be more easily done. So perhaps you will have greater discipline henceforth on our flights.
Absolutely. Shaina, if I could get you in, of course, there's no denying what's happened is absolutely unpardonable. But then all those saying that this again brings the focus on the so-called VIP arrogance, the Lal Batti culture, the "tu janta nahi mera baap kaun hai" kind of attitude that people really have, that lawmakers or people in any position that they believe they are VIPs enjoy in the country. Shaina?
Natasha, first and foremost, univocally we have all condemned this issue, and we have said on record that this kind of conduct, right, wrong or otherwise, is unwarranted and must be dealt with severely. The Civil Aviation Department has lodged 2 FIRs in stipulated time without procrastinating, and both those FIRs, one of which is for a cause of larger interest of the people who were traveling on that flight who were inconvenienced, and then you have the second where the employee or the staffer was assaulted.
Right.
I think that we need to understand that the larger debate is about people in public life and how do we expect our members of parliament or MLAs or corporators to behave. No kind of agitation can warrant this slipper smashing that one saw, and the arrogance that the individual has. So I don't want to play moral guardian for another party. I clearly want to say it is for that party's leadership to take cognizance of it and to take action.
Fair enough.
I mean, you need to have a kind of norm which is set up for every political party on their own forum.
Right.
Absolutely, and we've seen
one more thing.
condemnation
May I
come
add one
from
more thing?
everywhere. Yes, Bharat, quickly, you wanted to make a point, Bharat?
Yeah, I'm just saying that, and this has to be done regardless of the provocation, because I've been reading somewhere that he's talking about how he was provoked, and I feel regardless of provocation, whatever it was, you have no right to raise your hand against on any person who's doing his duty. Absolutely not acceptable.
Absolutely. Resorting
Regardless
to
of
violence
provocation.
is unacceptable no matter what the so-called provocation was. In fact, he's also saying that he is the aggrieved party and that he's going to take action against Air India. But I want to ask of the entire panel, Rahul Narvekar, I'll start with you. You know, this again, like I said, brings the spotlight on this so-called VIP culture and the sense of entitlement that people have, so-called VIPs really have, just like the airlines are uniting and saying that we're not going to allow this. Is it time for, say, MPs or politicians, lawmakers to get together and say that we shun all these VIP entitlements that we have? And I'm going to go over some of those that we have at airports, for instance, but is it time to just do away with them entirely? One size fits all.
Well, I'm of the firm belief that nothing justifies violence. There's absolutely nothing that can justify violence. Every person who believes he has a stake in democracy can never resort to any kind of violence, and therefore whether it was on provocation, whether it was unprovoked, whatever it may be, is just not justified, number one. Number two, such incidents happen time and again, and especially a few public representatives adhere to this kind of behavior is only because they go unchecked and they are not questioned, they are not accountable. This is not the first time that this gentleman has done something of this sort. In the past, he was also involved in 2014 in the Maharashtra Southern case where he tried to slap and force feed
Force-feeding
a
somebody.
Muslim gentleman who was on fast.
Right. But it's also not, I totally agree with you. I see your point. He's what can be called a repeat offender really in many cases. But one, just very quickly, I'm sorry to interrupt you there, Mr. Narvekar, but very quickly, this is
the larger point I'm trying to make, the larger point I'm trying to make is, the people behave like this.
Yeah, people behave like this because I think that sometimes they believe that they can get away with it.
No, that's because political parties allow them and give them cover. That is the only reason why representatives from political parties perhaps behave like this.
And everybody is to blame. Shaina, I'll get you in very quickly. Shaina, I'll get you in very quickly.
Have you done something wrong? He says, no, I'm a Shiv Sainik and whatever I've done is right.
Right, I see your point there, China. I'll get you in very quickly. This is, of course, a Shiv Sena, but this is not, we've seen this kind of arrogance, this VIP arrogance, this demand for these, VIP special privileges coming up with almost every party. No one really is spared. What is the kind of crackdown? Because, we all agree that this kind of an attitude, this kind of a demand for VIP privileges has no place in modern India.
Absolutely, and honestly, Natasha, the public that is watching this abhors the political class when they see them misuse their power. And for what? Whether you're sitting in economy or business class, does it really even matter? And forget that, right, wrong or otherwise, say the staff, the Air India staff was really rude. You are a public representative, look at what you need to lose, but nobody is here to sermonize. This kind of introspection has to be done from within. I think it's a disrespect to the post of the Member of Parliament. Right. It is a disrespect to you being elected as a representative.
Absolutely.
And these are not things that can be taught by any kind of a rule book or any kind of, personal
You're
strategy.
You either have it or you
don't.
An assault on,
for your
this
leadership
kind of
to take
basic
cognizance
decency.
of.
Fair enough.
You have it in you or you don't. And if your leadership doesn't pull you up for it, I think it's most unfortunate.
Absolutely, which is why Bharat Dabolkar, we need to see some sort of example being set without wasting any more time. I'll come to you in just a bit, but Jitendra Bhargav, sir, again we come to this no-fly list that we're talking about, that the airlines say we want a no-fly list because these are the kind of people who ought to be on that list. We've got to have a long list with the names and they need to be banned from all these airlines. Is that the solution, you think? Jitendra Bhargav.
Yes, that is one of the solutions. Besides, of course, the fact that airlines must stop pandering to the VVIPs. Partly, airlines must take the blame on the way they try and go out of the way to treat a VVIP passenger. Having said that, the no-fly list is a solution because when people know, there are three aspects to it. US has it. A financial fine, a jail term, and a ban on the airline that you can't fly. Now, if all these things are put together, you will really find people not misbehaving on a flight or being unruly. Now, which is what is needed. Mr. Ajay Singh very rightly said that it concerns safety of an aircraft, safety of passengers on flight, now which is paramount. Absolutely. So, better late than never, as I said earlier. If yesterday was an unfortunate day for aviation industry, today is a very good day because major significant steps have said. If Ravindra Gaikwad has triggered this thought in the country, let's welcome it. It's a very, very welcome feature.
And I think what's also important, Jitendra Bhargav, sir, is that they're making it quite clear that whether anyone else takes action or not, they're going to come together and do everything in their power to ensure that this gentleman is not getting on board their aircraft again. Bharat Dabolkar, again, we come back to the point that, people are looking up and saying that, how can you get away with this? Look at this Lal Batti culture that we have and all those so reluctant to do away with those red sirens and beacons there. So when are we going to see any kind of action?
It's long overdue.
Yeah.
I think that is long overdue. Either all political parties get together and discard this culture, or we change the nomenclature and we don't call them public servants anymore. We call them public masters because that's how they're behaving. They're forgetting that they're public servants. They've been elected to serve the public. And either political parties on this issue like airlines have got together, they get together and say, regardless of who the person is, whether he's an MP, MLA or what ordinary member, if a person behaves like this, he has to be thrown out, suspended and not just warned.
Absolutely. Those airlines getting together just really showing us the way. I'm running out of time, but last words, Shaina and Narvekar, just like the airlines have got together, Shaina, to you first, do we need political parties to come together? You said earlier that either you have this kind of decency or you don't. Now, in those case instances like this where perhaps you don't, should parties come together and say this is unacceptable across political lines, we are not going to accept it? What can you do as a political party?
I think it's very important for every political party to have some kind of discipline and some kind of pulling up and some kind of penalty and punishment. I mean, if you have this kind of act and then you have these people being given a ticket from the party again to fight again just because he has won an election, it's most unfortunate because the larger point here is that in public life, what are you there for? You're there to serve your public and people. And if somebody who is not your constituent, you can malhandle, you could do that to your own constituent as well. So the voters watching, be careful. This is the 21st century. There is anyway a stereotypical notion of a politician who misuses power, and this makes public abhor politicians, which is a very, very
Even more,
dangerous
then we
sign
wonder,
in the days to
right,
come.
and we wonder
Collectively,
where
we
that
must
perception
speak,
comes
we
from,
mustn't shy away from
who's to blame? Absolutely. I see.
self-introspection.
Absolutely. And in fact, not only is he brazen, he's daring the police to arrest him, and even talking about action against Air India. Rahul Narvekar, I'll give you the last word. You know, despite sort of condemning it and saying all the politically correct things, what more can political parties do to ensure that this kind of nonsense isn't repeated?
Well, this debate about morality in selecting candidates has been going on for very long. We know we've had several debates on not giving criminals tickets, but unfortunately across party lines, not limited to a particular political party, electoral success has been preceding moral standing. Therefore, you're right. I mean, this is a call which everyone will have to come on board and take. I think if people start judging political parties and candidates based on their criminal records, they look into these issues, they actually read the affidavits filed by candidates and vote accordingly, then I think political parties will be compelled to put in good candidates.
We need to start delivering on that. There's all of India watching to see just what kind of action is taken in this case, really, and which is going to really be a deterrent to others out there think that they can demand VIP privileges and get away with this kind of violence if they don't get it. This, of course, was somebody who wanted a business class seat in an all-economy aircraft. That really is perhaps the most shocking bit of them all. But thanks all so much for joining us this evening. Clearly, the last word on this story isn't spoken yet.